I'm doing all right. Thank you for joining us, Monica.
Not a problem. Glad to be here.
Also, as always, Miss McCray is here with us. How you doing, Miss McCray?
I'm doing all right. Good evening to you. How you doing?
I'm doing pretty good. And as always, back there on the boards, we got my man, Rainy B. How you doing, Rainy B?
Oh, the B for blessed. I'm feeling blessed, man. Shout out to my mama.
Oh, that's awesome. That's awesome. Okay, before we get started with some of our topics today, I got asked a question recently this week about what was the purpose that we were trying to create here with Real Family Talk. And so I want to address that. The purpose of Real Family Talk, I came up with 3 E's about the purpose related to Real Family Talk, okay? The first purpose is to educate. We talk about different things, educating people about, again, topics that either we aren't talking about often enough, in my opinion, or topics that should be discussed and that we should be thinking about. So that's the first thing. We want to educate, bring awareness to different issues happening within the world today. The second thing we want to do is we want to empower. Okay, we want to give people information that's going to help them be able to get to that next level in life for them, whatever that is. And the last thing we want to do is encourage. We want to encourage those who are striving to do something beyond themselves, just like what we're doing here at Real Family Talk. We're trying to do something beyond ourselves to help influence a generation of people, young and old alike. And so those are the 3 E's of the purpose of the show. So far, if you've been listening now for this is the 5th week of the show here, everything that we've done has been in that vein. We're trying to educate you on things going on, discuss issues relating to the world today, and try and encourage people to do something to change the situation or empower people to give them information that they might be able to take what they're doing in life to the next level. And so as we move forward with the show here, and be able to transition and grow our audience, our listening audience, we plan to do other things to encourage those 3 E's: educate, empower, and encourage. And if you have anything that you're doing with your, you have a business that you're trying to promote, or if you have a educational or community event that's going on, feel free to give us a call. You can hit us up on Twitter at Real Family Talk. Send us a message about what you're doing. We just started the website, realfamilytalk.weebly.com. That's Real Family Talk, and that's .weebly. That's WEEBLY.com. So check out the website. Send us a message on the website. Let us know what you're doing, and we'll gladly, especially for community events, we'll gladly let the people know what you're doing in the community, and then you can better participate in that particular activity. So that's what we're here for: educate, empower, and encourage. And as we move forward in this show, right now we're on the nighttime, but again, everything is a stepping stone. Eventually we'll be talking to you in the daytime. It's coming. It's in the plans. It's all about a stepping stone. This is our stepping stone, and as you move forward in your stepping stones, let us know. Let us encourage you as you encourage us in order to be able to move forward. All right, so that is the purpose of Real Family Talk. So if you were wondering, if you were confused, there's no confusion. That's what we're here for, okay? Now sometimes, as always, we're going to agree. Sometimes we're going to disagree, but that's what family does, and that's what we're going to do. But at the end of the day, we're still going to love each other and encourage and support one another. All right. Rainy B, would you hit that first clip for me, sir?
All right, here we go.
For those that don't know, this past Saturday, Herman Cain ended his campaign. And we just wanted to play taps to respect the fact that Herman Cain ended his campaign for a second.
A mess.
He wanted to pay respects.
That was cold.
Mess.
But if you've been listening to the show, it's no secret. I'm a fan of Herman Cain. I know he's not perfect, but I did like what he represented. And that brings me to my next clip that I wanted to Brother Rainey to play for me. If you'll play that next clip by Mr. Newt Gingrich, sir.
All right.
Start with the following two facts. Really poor children in really poor neighborhoods have no habits of working and have nobody around them who works. So they literally have no habit of showing up on Monday. They have no habit of staying all day. They have no habit of, I do this and you give me cash, unless it's illegal. Second, every first generation successful person I know started work early. And how many of you either did babysitting? Very inexpensive. And so I come around to this question. You have a very poor neighborhood. You have kids who are required under law to go to school. They have no money. They have no habit of work. What if you paid them part-time in the afternoon to sit at the clerical office and greet people when they came in? What if you paid them to work as the assistant librarian? What if and I pay them as early as is reasonable and practical? Okay. What if you and this, now we get into the janitor thing, and I get these letters written that say janitorial work is really hard and really dangerous, and it's this and that. I go, fine. So what if they became assistant janitors and their job was to mop the floor and clean the bathroom, and you paid them, and all of a sudden in their neighborhood, I did this. I earned.
All right. Well, that was Mr. Newt Gingrich offering his idea of how we can encourage poor students and poor in neighborhoods to better be able to understand what a work ethic is. Okay, to me, this proves the point of the purpose of why Herman Cain was so important. Herman Cain provided a minority face to what is typically considered to be a white environment, and that was his purpose. And that's the sole purpose of why I thought he was so important, because the actual ideas presented by conservatives or Republicans, the basic idea of what they represent, is something that I think we all strive for and all want to achieve. But unfortunately, the face that they have are people like Newt Gingrich, people who make statements suggesting poor students need to work as janitors or assistant librarians in school and understand work ethic. You know, it's these kind of small-minded ideas that really destroy the minority community's ability to be able to understand the basic concept of what a conservative or a Republican represents. You know, rather than tell us about, working as janitors, what he should be saying is what he teaches his own kids. Teach them about how to build wealth. Teach them the importance of entrepreneurship. These are the things that are going to take poor students in poor neighborhoods and then be able to bring them out of those situations. Teaching them having them become a janitor at the age of 9 and 10, that teaches us nothing. Because at the end of the day, those that don't do it, all they're going to do is clown the ones that do it, and so it's going to be a defeating purpose. And it's that disconnect that the establishment, Republican has to what the people really need, or maybe it's the inability to want to give them the things that they had in order to bring us out of that situation. And we're talking about Republicans, but I also put this back on Democrats too, because they also aren't preaching these basic foundations of what's going to bring us forward, which are, again, building wealth and entrepreneurship. Those are the things that, if we're concerned about poor people, poor students, and we want them to get out of the situation, that's what we need to be talking about. And unfortunately, we're wasting our time with stupid ideas as letting them be janitors and assistant librarians at the age of 10 and earn a small amount of money to teach them a work ethic. Waste of time. Anybody want to comment on that?
I agree. I mean, you hit the nail on the head. It's a nonsense type thought process that he has.
I guess I'm gonna go to the left with this. I disagree. I think we do need a work ethic at a younger age, and that way we'll learn entrepreneurship. We'll go ahead and start out with that small business. That's how I look at it. I look at it as a small business, and you start out with that. Yeah, started out as small business. It's your own business. You go from there. I just stepped up in here, y'all, so I kind of have know what's going on. But from what I'm hearing, yeah, start out with that 9 to 10 instead of just learning how to be. I ain't saying everybody's lazy, but to have that, like he said, that work ethic, that mentality, is what you do with it. It's how you channel it upon yourself, and you can also learn about the wealth as well, and learn how to grow your own business, and learn about the secrets to wealth at an early age. That's just me. You gotta have that work ethic. You gotta have that drive. Doesn't matter.
I just think there's a certain level of skills and knowledge that you need in order to become an entrepreneur, and learning how to work for someone or learning how to mop, like he suggested, the floor, that doesn't teach me how to own my own business. It doesn't teach me how to market my business. It doesn't teach me how to advertise. It doesn't teach me how to work a budget. It just teaches me how to follow directions and mop the floor.
You gotta start somewhere.
Yes.
You gotta start somewhere. You gotta start somewhere. You gotta start with that.
Which following directions is an important skill. We all need that, but it doesn't.
If you was younger in the church, you'll learn how to follow directions. You'll be sweeping and you'll be doing everything else. You learn how to follow directions, and from there, you learn about how to acquire wealth, and from there, you learn how to build your wealth. I mean, I just think it's not as horrible as an idea as everybody else trying to look at it. Like, I think you could build off of it. That's me.
I'm gonna give you a second to respond here, Randy B. Oh, wait a minute, before you do, we forgot to give out the phone number. 407-894-1680, 407-894-1680, if you want to join in on this conversation. Go ahead, sir.
Well, I'm the guy on the other side of the glass, so I feel like the kid that's got the mop. but I have to ride with Brandon, and I'm gonna tell you why I ride with Brandon a little bit is, if you ever read the book Rich Dad Poor Dad, if you read that book, the rich dad took his son and the poor kid, put them in one of his grocery stores, and he said, I'm only going to give you $0.25. Now, I know I pay my employees $8, $9, $10, and $12, but I'm going to give my son and I'm going to give his best friend $0.25, and that's all I'm going to give y'all. And they were working very hard. What they did was they got upset, they got tired of working for $0.25, and they went back to the rich dad and said, why did you do this? He said, because I wanted you to feel how to be a slave. He said, you shouldn't feel this way. And that's why you need to go out and get your own job. So with that mindset, if these children, what Gingrich said to me, what I heard was creating a work ethic. And because they're not seeing dad work. They're not seeing people in their community work. So they don't know what work is. They just know how to lay back, pick up a check, or hustle in the street. So my thing is, and maybe he verbaged it wrong. Maybe he said it wrong. Because I look at it like this.
Kind of sense that, though.
Yeah. When he said cleaning toilets and mopping floors, I understand that. But that's a cleaning service now.
Yep.
When I got a job with Comcast and they put me, I was inbound calls, I didn't look at it as I was working for Comcast. I actually made a sign and said, you know what, Rainey's telecommunication services, and put it on my little cubicle. And from there, I took it as in, this is my business. How you doing? You reaching Rainey. I'm with Comcast, but this is my business. And from there, I grew on to start doing, outside sales and commercial sales and all that because of my mindset.
Mm-hmm. But, okay.
Shout out to Comcast.
Now I'm with you on, I get what you're saying. But unfortunately, you're not the norm, okay? And so what we're talking about here, or like you said, I think it's a blanket statement to say these kids don't have anybody in their lives or don't see anybody working. That's probably not true. There's probably somebody working, but you're right, there's probably a lot of people that aren't. But because you're right, these people aren't working, or the ones that are few and far between, they're not picking up on these particular ideas and thoughts that we're having here. That's not coming across because there's nobody there to enforce that next level of critical thinking that would be required in order to be able to process this information in that particular manner. So when you're just putting these mops and the greeters or whatever it is that you do here, they're not catching the message because there's nobody at home supporting the critical thinking to move that message forward. All they see is that they got to go and sweep the mop and they get $1 or $2 or whatever it is that they decide to pay the kids in order to do that. And so that's the flaw in his message. That's why I say you'd be spending better time rather than talking about giving them brooms and mops. No, let's change the education system because that's where we're failing. We need to start educating people on how to move forward. If we would spend more time educating people on how to move forward, we wouldn't have the plight of the average poor person that we have. As minorities, if we had more education, we wouldn't be in the same financial situation we in 2011 that we were in the 1960s. Okay, there'd be growth. And so that comes from education. That's not going to come from putting mops in people's hands at a young age. Sure, there's going to be some students that you put a mop in their hand, and of course, some students are going to grow, and then now they're going to want more or whatever, and they'll get a job. But you know what? Some of those same students going to get jobs anyway, and some of those same students that were mopping going to still be drug dealers and all that other stuff that goes on in poor neighborhoods. Yeah. So again, it's not about mops in people's hands. It's about education. That's the key. We need to start educating kids at an early age. It shouldn't be mandatory in schools is what we need to do. And like I said, Democrats nor Republicans are talking about that. We need to have mandatory classes in school where you learn how to build wealth, where you learn how to be an entrepreneur. At least you learn the aspects of what it is to be an entrepreneur. Something to that nature. That's what we need. That's what's going to bring us forward.
Our school system from kindergarten to 12, and then when you get into even college, universities, they don't teach wealth.
Nope.
They educate you on a specific thing. You're going to learn your ABCs, your 1, 2, 3s, your geometry. You're going to go to university and I'm going to learn how to be a doctor or a nurse or something. No, I haven't. You don't get wealth training from any educational school. That's a private thing that you go to. You go to someone for wealth. Mm-hmm. What I'm saying with Gingrich is he's saying, listen, your ethic, your
mentality.
Your mentality, you don't have it in you. Let's put something in them. But the education, that's not going to come from school or a teacher unless that teacher cares for that child. That teacher has wealth, which most of them make about $30,000, so they don't even know how to get to 100, 200, 500,000, and most of them don't got portfolios whatsoever. So they ain't going to come from the schools.
And I understand what you're saying.
That's my point.
Isn't that one of the points of the show? Is to educate people on stuff they don't know and drop little hints and little nuggets and stuff like that. Like, hey, with this plan, you could be doing this, like Brother Rainey just said a little bit earlier, to give them more information out on the airways that they don't have already.
Correct. So
that they can use that. So we already operating in that vehicle right now. We are with this show.
I'm glad. Thank you for the show. Thank you for the show.
We do operate in that vehicle, but in that same mindset, his goal here is to help poor children to become not poor adults is what his goal is.
Yeah.
And so my end result point is that in that vein, if that's your effort, there are better ways to do it than putting mops in their hands. I can see, sure, I understand, when I heard what he said, and I respect what he's trying to do, but I just disagree with his path because, again, the last thing poor people want to hear is about you putting mops in their hands.
Well, he just didn't say mop.
Continues the same system.
He said the library too.
He did say the library too, but you know what? What did they hear? They heard mop.
Right.
Okay.
I heard the toilet.
So you have to be able to. And again, he's Newt Gingrich is supposed to be the smartest candidate in the race. He's the historian, as they like to call him. So you got to be able to come up with a better plan than this. And like I said, rather than talk about a plan that you want to give to poor children, why don't you give the same plan to the poor children that you're giving to your grandchild? Because you're not going to send your grandchild in her rich school or her private school or whatever it is she goes to. You're not going to suggest that school, that those students go and do mops to learn work ethic. So I disagree with you putting it in the poor kids' hands. I think you ought to give the poor kids the same thing you give to the rich kids, which is an education, whether, again, you say it's not coming necessarily from the school system, and I'm saying, well, it needs to, and that's something that if we're serious about reforming education, I think that's something that we need to be talking about that we aren't. And that's my point here. Let's not delineate and come up with special rules for the poor kids that we would never apply on the rich kids.
But that's
we gotta keep
pay, though.
It's all about being fair and balanced, right? That's
all right. Let's be real though, Jim. Let's be real. It's like in some situations with minorities, it's basically the playoffs. You know what I'm saying? They see what's going on, but they ain't gonna call it. So we know that's in play. We got to do something else besides be like, we need to make these programs in school. No, we need to do what we're doing right now and pass the word on and word of mouth. Do it like that. How big got to get out there? Get it out there. Instead of sitting back and being like, we need to have these programs. And nobody gets up. Nobody does anything. It just sounds good for the day.
Yeah, and even on a note, we have a call.
We have a call. Go ahead, caller. How you doing today? What's your name?
My name is Jeremy.
Oh, how you doing, Jeremy?
I'm good. How y'all doing up there?
Doing all right, Jeremy.
Good. No, I just had a comment on what y'all saying about teaching wealth and entrepreneurship in the school system. It does not benefit in the grand scheme of things for the country to teach a mass group of people to be entrepreneurs. Because if you do that, nobody's going to work in the factories. Nobody's going to work at Walmart. Nobody's going to, work those jobs, those hotel jobs and all that stuff, because you're going to have that attitude that you don't work for nobody, you work for yourself. And that doesn't benefit the productivity of the country. You know what I'm saying? That's why on the mass scale, they were never going to teach entrepreneurship like in high school and things like that. Yeah, there's some colleges you can go to and do it, but they're not going to do that.
All right. Thank you, Jeremy, for that comment.
Great point.
Here's my thought on process on that. Okay, there are numbers of classes that we go through when we go through school. Okay, and some people are drawn to one particular class. Some people like biology. Some people like math. Some people like English. Okay, the overall spirit of our country. Okay, especially when you talk about the Republican Party. The overall spirit of the Republican Party is self-responsibility, the ability to rise above just being the worker, and the ability to become a part of we'll call it the 1%. That's the big idea right now. Become a part of the 1%. That's the whole idea of the Republican Party.
Yes.
Is to find out ways to be able to empower yourself and then become a part of that 1%. As a matter of fact, that's everybody's American dream, is to become a part of that 1%. So that will everybody achieve that? No, it's never going to happen. So we could teach on an everyday basis, entrepreneurship and building wealth. Okay?
Yes.
The entrepreneurship, not every individual is going to hold on to that, because not every individual wants to be responsible for other individuals' ability to be successful. Okay? So that portion, you're never going to convince everybody to do that. So you'll always have somebody that's willing to work for somebody else because they're not willing to put in the effort that it takes to be the CEO. Okay, but building wealth, now whether you are a CEO, whether you are vice president, whether you are janitor, whether you are whatever you are, okay, building wealth is a general principle that everybody should be doing no matter what level you're on. Mm-hmm. And so it doesn't matter that you didn't make it to CEO. You still need to build wealth, because at the end of the day, you still want to at some point stop working. You still want to and then stop working and still continue a lifestyle that you had before. So you got to teach these courses. These courses are not going to transition us away from a society that won't be successful. These courses are needed in order to create a successful society. These courses are needed to bring the poor people from being so poor. Even though, when you compare poor people in our country to other countries, our poor people ain't got it that bad. They still got cable, they still got Xboxes, they still wearing Nikes, they still wearing FUBU and whatever. Okay, so again, they're poor, but let's be honest. We need these things regardless of whether or not you make it to be the CEO or if you just make it to be the janitor. You still need to build wealth. You still need that in your life somewhere. Go ahead, sir.
No. I want McCray. I'm watching y'all. And I'm like, wheels are turning.
I know, it's so much to process. But on another side of all of this, it's an empty promise because who's going to pay for this? We're already struggling how to pay for school systems and classes, school boards, closing down schools and everything. Whose bill will this be on to pay these students, to teach them ownership and responsibility? That's the point I'm coming from. He's talking these talks, but how can we apply what he's saying? In theory, yeah, we could talk about this all day. It's some good points there, but really,
But
really, is this gonna
I want to make a
happen?
comment. Well, you're right. It really is not going to happen. But
I mean,
let me make this comment, especially for Jeremy the caller as well, where he's saying that the Bible says, the poor you will have with you always. So we already know there are going to be some poor people. There's going to be some people mentality that just will not go there. And I know, Jay Real, you said everybody should be trying to get this type of knowledge, this wealth information, but they're not. But what I do see in opening some opportunity when there's no opportunity to a child, somebody's going to take that broom, take that mop, take those books. Somebody's going to find an opportunity in that and say, you know what, it was given to me. Now I don't want to do this, so I'm going to strive a little harder, maybe in my books. Maybe I'm going to reach out for some. But wealth is not going to be taught at our schools. And the rich, they would not put their children to that. You know why? Because they're already teaching them, this is how I made my wealth. They teaching their children wealth at home, or they're giving them private courses. They're sending them off to get more courses. Like I told my son before he went to the university, I said, I want to send you to this wealth class first. I said, but you make the choice. But he didn't want to go to the wealth class. That's his choice. He wanted to go straight to school. So it ain't gonna be taught in school.
Well, and you're right. It's probably not, because at the end of the day, in some sense of the word, they all, both, I'm talking Democrats and Republicans, they all want us to be beneath them. They all want us to depend on them. So you're right. It won't. But it doesn't change the fact that these are the things that we need in order to move forward. And so somebody, if we're going to be honest with the people, if all these people that supposedly care about the little man, the president and all his little buddies, these are the things that they need to be talking about. And it's clear, in my opinion, it's clear from the fact that they never, ever address these issues that one, they don't care. And they want to, and I'm not going to, let me not say they want to keep us down, but I'm just going to say they certainly are not trying to offer the information. But before we get on, because this is getting kind of heated, we do have
one last comment, man. One last comment. I don't think we want our president, our Congress, our Senate teaching us anything on wealth when they can't even get our budget together.
You know what? But here's the thing about that: they don't have the country's budget together. But guess what? They got their budget. They got their budgets together.
Yeah, they do.
They got their millions of dollars tucked away.
Exactly.
You know what I'm saying? We talked about how they using insider trading to make their money. So
That's it.
They doing it. They understand. They get it.
And I have one just quick thing. I think the importance is, no, we may not get the individual education or even corporate education in the educational system about wealth, but I think the importance is, if he really wants to help people that are in that situation, it should be exposure, not necessarily I'm delegating you to a particular position. Give them the opportunity to have different types of exposure to a business, to working for someone else, to being in a janitorial position, to working at Walmart, so that they can see what they want to do. And then while they're doing that, they're having exposure to other people and their work ethic to make that choice.
Exactly. And to be fair, to Mr. Newt Gingrich here, one of the efforts that he put in place, him and Donald Trump, all the Republican candidates have been meeting with Donald Trump for some reason. I guess he's a guru now. But in that effort, him and Donald Trump and Mr. Gingrich or Donald Trump is supposed to be developing a plan where he finds a poor school in New York, and then he's going to find some students out of that poor school to be apprentices to see what he does. And so we'll see. You'll see if they follow through on that particular plan and kind of what happens with that. But to be fair, he did do something like that as well. But we'll move on from this topic and get to the topic of the day, which we wanted to talk a little bit about women and self-esteem. So again, the number is 407-894-1680, 407-894-1680. I only got two ladies in the studio with me tonight, so ladies, they're gonna represent, but hopefully some ladies out there will also call in and co-sign or add something new to the conversation that they might miss. So the first thing I want to do with this, well, one of the things I did in preparation for this is I went to different ladies and then asked them their opinion about women and self-esteem. I'm a man, so I don't know so much when it comes to that, so I went to the source, if you will, to find out some things. And I'll just mention the overall kind of writing point that I found. For number one, the ladies that I talked to, these are all ladies who have a I guess you would call it either high self-esteem maybe, or we'll say that their self-esteem certainly is not lacking. Maybe they don't call it high, but they certainly are confident about themselves and what their abilities are. And the place that they say they all got that from was basically at home. Growing up, whether it was through growing up in the church and a belief in God and how the importance of God in leading your life, or just that supportive network amongst the parents, amongst the aunts, the uncles, the cousin, of being successful and achieving your goals and being proud of yourself. And so it would seem, which makes sense, I mean, it's not, that doesn't seem very shocking or surprising, that ultimately it's going to start at home and what your home is giving you as to what your level of self-esteem will be. Any comments on that, ladies?
I think that the home does play a large part of it, and even when there isn't necessarily a nurturing atmosphere at home, as long as you are getting it elsewhere. Like, for example, teachers at school, other people at, like you mentioned, at church, or even people in the community that are helping, I call it incubate a positive self-esteem versus a negative self-esteem. It definitely plays a large part, because we're social beings, so we are looking for things to reinforce about ourselves, and so we're looking from other people in most cases. So it definitely plays a large part.
All right, I see we got a caller. Caller, how you doing?
I'm good. How are you?
I'm doing all right. What's your name, caller?
Roseanne.
All right, Roseanne. What comment did you want to make tonight?
In reference to women's self-esteem,
Yes.
I think that there's been a complete reversal on that. I think that 50 years ago, the man ran the house, the man did the hard work, the man brought the paycheck home. But I think women have empowered other women to reverse that, and you guys got some competition now.
Ooh. Ooh, I like that.
Women definitely can run the household and work a job and bring a paycheck home, all in one.
Oh,
all right, Roseanne.
So I think the self-esteem has come a long way, and you guys got to watch out, because we're not backing down.
Roseanne, thank you for that comment, Roseanne. I'll let ladies, you want to address that real quick, or y'all want to piggyback, or?
I mean, you know what? She made some good points, and the sad part of that, and that's probably a whole nother topic we can talk about, is why the women have to step up like this. We can table that discussion, and that'll be another topic for another night. But it comes from home, and then it just comes from you. Somehow there's something that's in you, because everybody has a moment where it's like, oh man, man, I'm not feeling pretty today, but then you have, right in that split second, something else has to snap into place and say, you know what, you are beautiful, you are smart, what's the little saying that the help would say, you is smart, you is beautiful, you is kind.
Yeah, the self-affirmation.
But you have to have that, and as you grow into your womanhood, hopefully you've come across some other women who have also brought that on for you and just continued to help you build and grow as a woman. Unfortunately, it's not as prevalent as we think. There are a lot of women who are dealing with self-esteem issues, and then they fall into some awful things. Hopefully they can pull themselves back into that, but I think that disconnect is the beginning. If you have a solid base, a solid foundation that can push you and propel you on through your life, you'll be on a good path.
Okay, and just piggybacking on kind of what the caller was saying, it almost seems as what you're suggesting is that a woman's self-esteem, in essence, it almost has to be there because you're going to have to depend on yourself. And so if you're depending on yourself, you have no choice but to pull up your bootstraps, if you will, and do what you have to do. I see you in the booth over there, Rainy B. You got something to say. What you want to say, sir?
What you got?
What you want to say, sir?
Oh, wow. she came thorough. I agree with her. There has been this shift of women just being backbone strong and very competitive out there, and their self-esteem has risen, and they had to be honest with you. They really had to, because men hasn't played their role, their position at all. And also men just tried to get into women, did get into women heads and hearts and broke their self-esteem. The problem is when you get overconfident and you get too much self-esteem, and then it gets to a competitive point. Now you outdoing your man, and it's like you're more powerful than your man, so now you're breaking down the man's self-esteem. He's not a man anymore, and we're seeing that as well. So, and now there's a battle in the house, or there's a battle in the relationship. If they're not in together as marriage, they're a battle in the relationship because they're saying, okay, it's competitive. I make more money and I do this, and it gets out of hand. But what I have seen from women, there's been a lot of women who self-esteem has grown. Don't get me wrong, but I've been seeing a lot of women whose self-esteem is just not there. Not there at all. You got a lot of them, and then you get too much self-esteem. Now you don't need the man. Now we talking about other issues. We can talk about getting into lesbian and all that type of stuff, because now I don't need a man. But for the women's self-esteems that are not, there's a lot of women now I see just their minds are not there. They don't take care of themselves. Their hair jacked up. I still don't understand this eyebrow thing at all, where people got to go to Asians who don't have eyebrows and get their eyebrows done. What? You know what I'm saying? I'm still trying to understand that.
This is not all Asians. It's just happen to be
that's
several ones that are working in those type of shops, but it's not every.
I'm just keeping, this is the real family show. I'm keeping it real. There's a lot of women today. I just see, ponytails, flip-flops, they just don't take care of us. I'm from Boston. And you go up in Boston, women are just on point with their clothing and all that. You know what I'm saying? So, like, my wife, no, you can't walk with me in flip-flops. You just ain't going to do it. But that's me. But my wife wants for nothing either.
All right.
So that's just it.
Nice.
But go ahead. Anybody else want to take that?
I like the way you endorse yourself right there.
Remember, you can join in on this conversation, 407-894-1680, 407-894-1680. Ladies, we want to hear from you, ladies.
You said something about competitiveness and having too much self-esteem, or having a high overconfidence. I think that you certainly don't want to walk in arrogance.
There you go.
And oftentimes women that may appear to have a higher self-esteem are not walking in high self-esteem. They're walking in competitiveness and arrogance to compensate for things that they're lacking. And so you come with, that battle, because I'm not getting what I need, so I had to artificially create something to make it appear like I have it together, and then it's coming back at you because you really don't have what you need to have, and so you get those conflicts.
All right, we have another caller. How you doing, caller? What's your name?
My name's Catherine.
How you doing, Catherine?
I'm fine.
All right. What did you want to add to the conversation tonight?
Well, I just heard this whole thing about the eyebrows with the Asians. All this nonsense.
He's in trouble. He's so in trouble.
Now, my self-esteem is very high, but I feel like my eyebrows will look nice. What's wrong with going to let the Asians do it? And I got some black people who can do it, then I'll go to them too.
Oh, he's in trouble.
What you started?
It's all about preference. It's all about preference. These are just
She
jokes.
got confidence.
These are just
She got
jokes.
self-esteem. Nah,
I
that
look out of my eyebrows all bushy all the place. Ain't no wrong with the Asians.
We appreciate that, caller. We appreciate Catherine.
Appreciate it.
Oh, we got another caller. Caller, how you doing? What's your name?
My name's Soretta.
How you doing, Soretta?
Tell them we're taking that flip-flop money and not buying that $50 pair of shoes and buying a $10 pair of shoes because we building our wealth so we can retire at 40.
That's what I'm saying. I knew it's gonna open up. Amen.
I appreciate that, Soretta.
This is why I treaded carefully on this one.
Well,
Can I just do this for that last call, man?
What's that?
yes. She brought it all around.
Yes, she did. Yes,
Brought
she
it
did.
back.
Yes, she did. Well, you know, you have to think a lot of these things. I believe that, especially when you're talking about grooming techniques, I think a lot of that just comes from the influence of society today. In order to kind of keep up with the Joneses, if you will, you know, women have to, you know, cut those eyebrows or trim those eyebrows. They have to, you know, some men won't talk to you unless you got that ponytail swinging in the back. You know what I'm saying? So, you know, it is kind of, I think society is leading women to feel like they have to have these things. I mean, if you go back, I think in the 60s and the 70s, you didn't have this.
Yeah.
Because society wasn't on this, what we're on today. Women back then, they didn't worry about having their hair trimmed. They wore the afro. They wore the proud afro. Their hair was natural. Perhaps they did have hair growing on their legs and hair coming out of their underarms. And you know what I'm saying? Because society at that time didn't dictate that's what you needed to have in order to be quote unquote pretty. But in today's society, women have to kind of keep up these facades, if you want to call them that, which is kind of how I feel you're thinking they are. They have to keep up these facades in order to be able to attract men today, because that's what every other woman is doing. Now, I think in doing that, a part of having self-esteem, though, is having that limit of what you're comfortable with and what you're willing to do. So if you know that you're not comfortable cutting all your hair off, or you're not comfortable having to go get your hair done on a weekly basis like some women do, you know, then you find your comfortable spot. And then you play your role.
Yeah.
And then as with anything, just because you're playing a role doesn't mean your self-esteem is any less. And then whenever it's right for that man to come along and appreciate you for who you are, well, then that man will come and he'll appreciate you, and then you won't have to quote unquote keep up the facade of what we see in videos and magazines and movies and television that's just constantly bombarding us to the point where they're even creating the facade. Because a lot of these, especially when you're talking about magazines, nobody gets in a magazine shoot without them going into the computer and airbrushing out what they didn't want you to see, and you know, and the blemishes and the whatever it is that they don't think is going to look sexy for the magazine or whatever. They're taking all those things out via the computer these days. So even they're creating these false facades of what these women truly look like. Ladies?
I definitely agree. I think that it's harmful in general, but I think it's becoming even more harmful for younger women, or even children. I've seen instances where children are dressing in particular ways because they see their what they may call their role models appearing in a certain way, that, oh, well, this is how you get a boyfriend, or this is how you get attention from someone.
Or this is how you look beautiful.
Exactly. You know, this is beautiful. Even I can remember way back in the day when I was in elementary school, I was addressed by a young girl, why do you wear your hair braided like that? That's not pretty. You know, why is your hair nappy? And so I can hear my mom now, but I would take my hair out, braids and say that it came loose when I was playing, and I would appear, and behave like the other girls because I thought that's what made me pretty,
Right.
because other people said what I was and how I was behaving at that point wasn't attractive, and so I'm trying to please others because that's what we do. We try to please others, and we want to have friends, but trying to walk in those essences because we want other people to approve of how we appear.
And piggybacking on that, I was actually reading some things last night in relation to just that same idea. I was reading an article. It was called "Raise Girls with Healthy Self-Esteem," "How to Raise Girls with Healthy Self-Esteem," and it brought like 5 questions that you should ask your. Again, in this case, they were talking about girls, but this would apply to boys too. And I'm going to read through these questions kind of real quickly here. So the first question said, do you ever feel bad about yourself for not owning something? Okay, because of course we're bombarded by television every day with different ads. We're bombarded from our friends and what they have and don't have. The second question, have you ever felt that people might like you more if you owned a certain item? Okay, third question, has an ad made you feel that you would like yourself more or that others would like you more if you owned a product an ad was selling? Fourth question, do you worry about your looks? Have you ever felt that people would like you more if your face, body, skin, or hair looked different? Fifth question, has an ad ever made you feel that you would like yourself more or others would like you more if you changed your appearance with the product the ad was selling? And so again, these questions are all focused on what our children are seeing. Mm-hmm. And that's the thing, it goes back to what we said initially. It all goes back to really that home environment or fostering what did you call it there, Monica?
Incubating positive self-esteem.
Incubating positive self-esteem, yes. So it all goes back to incubating positive self-esteem, whether that be at home, that be the church, that be the family members that you interact with. That's what's going to really help our young girls to be able to develop better self-esteem. Of course, everybody's self-esteem is going to have the highs and lows, like Ms. McCrae said, but you want to make sure that at least it's maintained at a particular level. Anybody?
When we talk about the home, I have to say my daddy, hey daddy, he was the man in my life, and he still is. He was the one who first told me I was beautiful. He would give me flowers on Valentine's Day. He would be that man so that I didn't have to go out and be something fake that I needed to be, and God blessed me with that wonderful man. Mm-hmm. But so when we look at, it's times when we look at these images, when I see Halle Berry on the video screen, I be like, well, wait a minute, I can look at the mirror twice too, because she's gorgeous. Mm-hmm. But at the same time, look what she's selling. She's selling these beauty products that are supposed to make us beautiful, and go out and spend this whatever CoverGirl, whatever she has. So at times these images can, even to the best of us, get to us. But like you said, if it starts, earlier, like we talked about, if it starts at home, and then we have that positive reinforcement, and beginning with you, not a man, not another woman. If you don't feel comfortable in this new fad that's going on, this what's this new thing where people are shaving the sides of their heads? I know that's not going to look
Mohawks.
The Mohawks. That's not hot. That's not hot to me.
No.
So I'm not going to rock that. But guess what? Somebody else, she could be bad, and you can be bad. And I think as women, if we can get to a level where be in your lane, I'm going to be in my lane, then we can all build each other up instead of you have to be like me because I'm rocking the newest stuff.
Yeah, I was just about to say, well, y'all women, for some reason, y'all like the worst to each other, and that's just to me what I see as far as tearing each other down and being in competition when it comes to looks. I don't know what's going on with that, but it's pretty bad. That's all I have to say.
Okay.
that is
we are very critical.
And piggybacking on that, that was another comment that a young lady gave me about women and relating to self-esteem, is that sometimes self-esteem is kind of damaged, not because of what you're seeing, but because of the competition that you have, per se, with your friends, in the sense that, your girl just got her a Gucci bag, you know what I'm saying? And so now you're feeling a little inadequate because you don't quite have your Gucci bag yet. Right. Or you're feeling like you need to not go get Gucci now, maybe you need to go get Dooney and Burke, right? That's what it's called.
Dooney and Broke.
those competitions amongst each other sometimes can also influence the self-esteem that you have. Randy, you've been quiet. I know you got something you want to say.
Sisterhood just leaves.
I got some.
What's up? What you doing?
Top
That's all I want to say. You're just trying to be a top model. That's all.
Piggybacking off your own top model. It is about personal style, and personal style doesn't necessarily equal to what society believes is beautiful. As Ms. Phyllis was saying, that you don't have to do what other people are doing to be beautiful, and a lot of people feel that way. I have to wear the 26-inch weave to be beautiful because they want my hair past my waist, or I have to have 16-inch nails because that is acceptable. It is about your personal style. It doesn't mean you necessarily have to do it, but if you choose to because that's what you feel comfortable and that's what satisfies you, that's fine. But a lot of people are doing it just to imitate beauty.
And I agree with it. I'd say, why are you doing it? Because you want people to, because you want on your outward appearance. I mean, you don't feel something confident on the inside. Why are you doing this? What's the root of it? What is the root of it?
Yeah.
And these are all good points. We're winding down here again. The show just never seems to be long enough, does it? And so before we go, what I want to do, again, doing some reading, I found some what they call techniques to improve self-esteem. So if you're out there and your self-esteem isn't quite where it needs to be, let me leave you with some ideas that might be able to help bring it up to at least we'll say a higher level. The first thing it suggested was they call it a 10-minute technique. Okay, and the idea of this technique is for you every day to sit down and take 10 minutes, don't do anything, and just allow yourself to feel the peace and happiness and just enjoy you for 10 minutes. So that's one technique. 10 minutes by yourself, sit there, turn the TV off, turn the phone off, turn the music off, close your eyes, and sit there and enjoy or feel peace and happiness within yourself. Okay, that's the first thing. The second thing, as you go through situations in life, rather than talk about what happened wrong in the situation, accentuate the positive of that situation, whatever it is. So you had an argument with your best friend, you had an argument with somebody at work, so don't focus on what went wrong in the argument, focus on what went right. So maybe in the argument at the end of the day, you guys found out something more positive about each other, or you were able to come to a conclusion about something. Accentuate that positive and forget about the negative, because when we focus on the negative stays with us and we just go over and over and over again. But because we never highlight the positive, we tend to forget that. So just highlight the positive. And then the third thing is make a list. 50 things that you like about yourself. And of course, you say, oh, I don't have time to write 50 things. Well, maybe you don't have time to write 50 things in 1 hour. But if you take an hour on Monday, an hour on Tuesday, Thursday, Friday, Saturday, Sunday, and then the next Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, if it takes that, and then come up with 50 things. And then once you have your 50 things, take those 50 things, put them on a set of note cards, maybe 5 per note card or something like that. Carry these note cards with you every day, and then on a daily basis, look through the note cards. Remind yourself of the 50 things that you think are great about you. And so in those moments where you might be down, pull out those note cards. The article talks about randomizing them. So don't keep them in the same order. Shuffle them up so that you're not seeing the same cards consistently in the same order, but you're just seeing them randomly to remind you, oh yeah, this was great about me. Oh yeah, that was great about me. Oh yeah, and so forth. And do this on a daily basis just to keep your self-esteem level up. We're winding down. I'm going to give the panel a moment to give a last comment. Monica, a last comment?
Definitely. I think the importance is to gain awareness of where you are and where you stand in your self-esteem, and to make an effort to invest in yourself and to believe in yourself. If you do find yourself in lower self-esteem, to find ways, as J. Will suggested, to increase your self-esteem, to do things for yourself that you wouldn't normally do, to make yourself feel better and to be more satisfied with who you are.
And don't forget now, Monica. One of the other reasons why I brought Monica on tonight is Monica's a counselor. So if you want to go ahead and
That's
shout
right.
out your business, Monica, real quick.
Yes, if you'd like to just contact me at the Covenant Counseling Center, I can be reached at 321-872-7720. Again, that's 321-872-7720.
Thank you, Monica.
Thank you.
We appreciate you joining us
No
tonight. Brandon, any last comments?
As far as self-esteem, stop being a hater. Stop hating your friends. Stop hating your sister, your mom, and your daddy. But most of all, stop hating yourself. Love everybody.
Love yourself.
Love yourself.
Love yourself.
That's the last comment, Ms.
That's it.
McGirt?
Love yourself.
Rainy B?
Oh, the last comment is God says you're beautifully and wonderfully made. He also said that he gives us the power to gain wealth. So bottom line, find God, you'll find wealth, and you'll find that you're beautiful.
Oh, amen to that. Amen to that. Well, once again, we're closing down the show here. I want to again thank everybody for joining me tonight. That's the family in the studio and those out there listening. As always, you can follow me on Twitter at Real Family Talk. You can friend us on or like our page on Facebook, Real Family Talk, and the blog website is up, realfamilytalk.weebly.com. That's realfamilytalk.weebly.com. We appreciate you joining us. We'll see you next week. Hi, this is Jay Will from Real Family Talk. We'll be on from 9 p.m. to 10 p.m. every Tuesday on Gospel 1680. Hope to see you there.
WOKV, Winter Garden, Orlando.
The prettiest thing I've ever seen was a Holy Ghost girl. And when she hits that scene, you know what I mean. She's a Holy Ghost girl. The prettiest thing I've ever seen was a Holy Ghost girl. And when she hits that scene, you know what I mean. She's a Holy Ghost girl. The prettiest, most wittiest, the smartest, kind-hearted woman in the world is a Holy Ghost girl who's living in her Holy Ghost world, and she shines like a Holy Ghost pearl. We'll pray for you, all day for you. To go to church you must, woman in the world has the Holy Ghost, and His blood has got the world prison from coast to coast, and in the Word of God you are the prettiest thing I've ever seen was a Holy Ghost girl. And when she hits the scene, you know what I mean, 'cause she's a Holy Ghost girl. And she hit the room, you're gonna know that prettiest thing I've ever seen was a Holy Ghost girl. And when she hits the scene, you know what I mean, 'cause she's a Holy Ghost girl. Holy Ghost girl. She's worth, she's the most down to earth, a tongue-talking, Bible-walking, spirit-filled and just to kill. Holy girl, to God she's a holy girl, living in her holy world, and she shines like a holy girl. Will tell no lie, look you right in the eye, and say what thus says the Lord. And heaven's her just real, and I must confess that in all this munchiness, that she will stand for righteousness, and will not be a part of it. The prettiest thing I've ever seen, pretty girl, was a Holy Ghost girl. And when she hits the scene, you know what I mean, 'cause she's a Holy Ghost. You're gonna know that she does a prettiest thing I've ever seen was a Holy Ghost girl. And when she hits the scene, you know what I mean, 'cause she's a Holy Ghost girl. And she will say, sanctify, sanctify, Holy Ghost filled, and fire baptized. Say, sanctify, sanctify, Holy Ghost filled, and fire baptized. Say, sanctify. so sweet.